This mystery starts over a decade ago in the year 2003. Toontown Online was nearing the end of its last stages of beta, and in order to keep fans and testers aware and informed of everything that was going on in Toontown's development, they decided to create and add what was called the Backstage Column. This column featured only 5 issues dating from February 2003 to July 2003, but 2 of these issues stand out far more than any of the rest. On February 20th, 2003, the Backstage Column was introduced, detailing briefly about their intentions of keeping the players informed of upcoming content for the ever-expanding game. Little did they know that 2 of these issues would become a topic of curiosity and a subject of debate on what it would have entailed for years to come. They were called COG Headquarters and COG Headquarters 2. The text for the article COG Headquarters reads, "COG Headquarters is shaping up to be a much larger design than originally anticipated. The team is incredibly excited to finally be working on COG HQ. We think we will have some really new and engaging experiences to offer when everything is complete. The story concept centers on the COGs taking Toons prisoners. The COGs have created permanent embankments on the outskirts of Toontown and are capturing and holding storekeeper Toons hostage. Groups of Toons will need to battle their way through numerous, complex, and unique areas to reach the final confrontation and rescue the captured Toons. High-level game design is just about finished, and we are starting to work on concept art and blocking models for some of the larger elements that will make up COG HQ. We will start mocking up some of the more experimental gameplay systems soon, and release them to the test server when we have something solid enough. We will be updating this section periodically in the upcoming months with more details and screenshots of COG HQ as they are available. COG Headquarters will not actually be one building, but rather an entire neighborhood in itself. Outside the main HQ building will stand factories that create the COGs. Pictured above is the screenshot of a blocking model of the Arm factory. Toons will be able to group up and enter the factories to battle the COGs inside. Factories will not be a simple 1 to 5 story building like the COGs build on the streets. They will be complex arenas filled with traps, conveyor belts, doors, switches, and other surprises. One of the goals of COG HQ is to bring some new environments and gameplay challenges to the advanced player. Pictured above are some concept sketches for the building interiors around COG HQ. We'd like to provide some areas outside battle that involve a little more action and strategy. There will be more dynamic and interesting rooms inside COG HQ that Toons must navigate and battle through. Hope you have enjoyed this first behind the scenes look at the Toontown development team. We're working hard to bring these new and exciting features to you. We'll post more details about COG HQ and other features we are cranking away on soon. The Toontown development team. But none of this was ever actually added to the game, despite the obvious statements that they were actually getting close with things. And why was that? Well, let's discuss it. First, let's lay out everything we know. The issue detailed everything about a new COG headquarters. The original COG HQ concept was a full neighborhood of COGs featuring various factories for various parts of the COG suit and conveyor belts that detailed the creation of COGs, but also featured the captured shopkeepers similar to the current day Sellbot HQ. All of this is extremely interesting and kind of shocking to hear and learn about, but at the same time it's curious why this plan was never fully carried through and was ultimately changed up. The story continues, however, with the 5th issue of the Backstage Column, titled COG Headquarters 2. This topic featured so much more than the first and included an amazingly interesting image in the top right. The article read, "All of the hard work on COG HQ is starting to come together. We have started creating the interiors of the factory buildings. Each factory will house assembly lines where the COGs are being manufactured. Toons will be sent on COG part recovery missions to the factories in effort to stop the COGs before they can propel her off into Toontown. As we mentioned in the first issue of Backstage, Toons will work their way through each building, past a series of obstacles, up and down elevator lifts, across conveyor belts, through doors, while dodging heavy COG building machinery. We are in the process of building the obstacles within the factories and starting to get an idea of how the Toons will navigate their way through. In an effort to go undetected by the COGs, you will need to think, act, and look like a COG. To do that, you will wear a COG suit and travel in disguise. New tasks will be assigned for you to recover the pieces. Various COG parts, arms, legs, feet, etc. will be acquired at the final battle in each factory when you come to blows, or rather pies, with the big boss COG. Once all of the pieces have been found and your suit is complete, you will be able to gain access to the very well-guarded main headquarters building. Don't even think about trying to go in without your suit. Security cameras will spot you and COG goons will drag you right out the door. Thank you for following up on the COG HQ development. We are extremely excited about the progress so far and will continue to keep you updated on its evolution from concept to full-on Toontown neighborhood. The Toontown development team. This article was even more revealing and extremely interesting. The captions for the Skelecog image read, "Robots in their pre-COG state without their business suits will patrol the streets of COG HQ." So that means that in the original Toontown concept map, and also the current map, had actual COG streets that connected to the Toon Playground streets that would be patrolled by Skelecogs. Even just this tidbit is awesome to read and learn about. There's also this very early concept video of Toons wearing COG suits. The image caption read, "Your Toon body will be replaced by the suit with your head and name still showing." This was obviously taken and implemented into the game from this concept for each HQ. Also noted was apparently a huge increase in a more platform style of play in these factories. It sounded like they were really trying to amp up on obstacles that your Toon would have to work through to finish. This was slightly implemented in the various HQs to some extent with the stompers and ledges and puzzles, but not to the amount that they had hyped it up in this article. They also called for a main headquarters at the final stage. However, you could speculate that it involved a chairman or some boss cog, and maybe the original ending for Toontown Online that Jesse Shell mentioned in the 2015 Toonfest Q&A that was ultimately scrapped. Speculation leading to the original CEO being the final boss of the game that would await you there. There was also the first mention of COG Goons. This was also ultimately implemented into almost every COG HQ. And last but not least, the most interesting of all of this is the image in the top right. It's an image of the one and only Cellbot leg factories. Here's a zoom in on the image. So let's talk about everything that we know about this concept now. The original concept featured a foot factory for Cellbots, unknown factories for Cashbot and Lawbots, and the arm factory for Bossbots. Not much at all is known about the Cashbot or Lawbot factories besides knowing that they were planned in the concept. There may have been previous existing concept art, but sadly, to date, has been reported as unrecoverable on a faulty hard drive by former Disney staff. The Foot Factory, however, besides the information from the issues, is very, very interesting. There is a publicly released Toontown source dating from 2003. Inside these game files are specific files that are remnants from the very first concept of the Cellbot Foot Factories. Even to this day in the current game, there are files in the actual Toontown folders named after the foot or leg factories. In the phase folder containing models for the COG buildings are also about 4 models that are completely thought-provoking. These are stuck in a folder named COG HQ and did not have any textures included in the files. These files were called Factory Interior 1, Factory Layout 2, Foot Factory, and Lobby Test. Each of these are interesting in their own right as to what it's really intended to have been used for. Let's take a look at each file and see what there actually is to see. Just as a note, there were no textures included, so most of these I personally subbed in random textures that I found from the existing Cellbot HQ. In Factory Interior 1, I can only assume that this is a layout or interior concept or maybe a part of what the original Cellbot factory would have consisted of. There's not a ton to go off of here, but it's still neat to see. Factory Layout 2, however, is amazingly interesting. This is what I believe to be an entirely full factory designed as the original Cellbot Foot Factory. It was never seen inside the game in any form, and it's confusing considering its complete layout and design was finished. You can see differently designed silos and rooms all scattered around with various catwalks and pathways to go and choose from. It's genuinely very interesting. Inside Foot Factory is the granddaddy of all things. To precursor this file, there is some concept art of this model previously having existed out there outside of the Backstage Column photo. This image is taken from Comrade United's Work vs. Play developer interview. In this image, it shows various depictions of concepts, including a very early version of what appears to be a Cellbot HQ, or back then it would be the Cellbot Factory, fit with a foot statue in the very front, exactly how the Backstage Column's issue photo has it. So inside this file we see this. The substituted textures are rough, I know, but you can see exactly what was featured in the concept images. This featured a foot statue with a front entrance that you would proceed into to fight the Cellbot Foot Factory. This very rare model was never specifically implemented into the game. Last but not least, we have Lobby Test. It's a peculiarly small file that is a simple room, probably as a concept test for one of the rooms featured in the factory model. So that's all we really know about the Cellbot Foot Factory. Sort of. To say all of this wasn't implemented would mean that I'm wrong. If you take a closer look at the Foot Factory file, something seems very familiar. If you simply look at today's factory lobby, you'll see something quite shocking. They reused the exact model of the Foot Factory, minus the foot statue, and replaced it with the generic cog head statue. I'm still not sure as to why the cog head statue is featured in the first place, but this is another case of the team reusing assets in a beneficial way. Could the head statue actually be a remnant of the final Cog Boss factory or headquarters? Could that mean that the cog shown actually is indeed the original CEO or chairman? Or could it simply be a relic from an unknown head part factory? Well, to finally shed a light on this subject, former Disney staff have said that they painted the concept art for leg, arm, torso, and head factories, meaning that this feature shown in Sellbot factories could actually have been an old model used in either a Cashbot or Lawbot head factory. My only reasoning as to why they would choose specifically the head factory model for the Sellbot HQ factory is that perhaps it just made the most sense out of the choices. Featuring a giant fist or leg wouldn't make too much sense being in the random like that, but a torso could potentially also work. But now you know that interesting piece of history. The original Sellbot Foot Factory entrance is still somewhat in part used to this day in the remodeled Sellbot factory. As far as the rest of the concept goes, nothing more is known about the Cashbot or Lawbot factories outside of the possibility of them being either the torso or head factories. And the only thing existing about the Bossbot Arm factories is this exact image that started this hype 13 years ago from the year that this video was uploaded. But you want to know the ultimate reason why all of this was scrapped, redesigned, and changed? It was because the team went too big. All of the work included in this concept was ultimately just too much work for them. They only had the ability to really work on a single HQ, and as so, they worked on Sellbot HQ. Staff was shifted around, and certain individuals who were previously tasked on creating the various cog factories were now moved onto other projects, such as the very early stages of Pirates of the Caribbean Online. They ultimately decided to change the designs of the newer COG HQs as they came along to fit the workload, and it eventually molded itself into what it is today. This is also why the original fully designed Sellbot factory was scrapped and never used. It was changed and remodeled in order to fit the less taxing workload in terms of puzzles or obstacles, and thus became what was known as the modern day Sellbot HQ. And I hope all of that was interesting to learn about. Thank you all for watching. There's still more mysteries out there for me to cover, and I hope you stick around for more. Until then, I'll see you in my next video. And I'd like to take a moment here at the end just to say thank you to Bingo Kemsky, MXGE, and Christopher Tobin for being so awesome and supporting me so much on my Patreon each month. It's awesome, and it really helps the production of the videos on this channel. I can't thank you guys enough. So I'll see you next time in my next video. Do you like what you see? Want to help me in making videos just like this one? Help support me and my videos by joining my Patreon. It's a funding website designed to allow YouTube creators just like me to gain support to be able to produce videos regularly. So if you enjoy my videos, it would mean the world to me if you could lend a hand to help me make more. I want to thank you all for watching my videos. I want to thank you all for the support, and I'll see you in my next video.